Our next topic is building the future, aligning club vision with talent evolution. The most successful football organizations don't just develop players, they develop systems, philosophies, and long-term pathways that allow talent to thrive. Our next speaker has spent more than 2 decades building football structures across clubs, academies, and federations around the world, helping organizations align player development with a long-term strategic vision. Please welcome to the stage Jordi Gratacos. Jordi is UEFA Pro License Coach, football advisor, former technical director with FC Barcelona International Academy Network, and former FC Barcelona football development specialist. Jordi, the podium is yours.
Hello, good afternoon, buenas tardes. Thanks to all for being in this presentation. First of all, I want to thank you to Eduard about the invitation of this amazing football event. Not only Eduard, also Corana and all the staff that is doing the things simple for us. We'll have this time to talk about, of course, I have different experiences in my football career, but I will focus a little bit during my time in FC Barcelona, in Barça Academy, as international sport director, because as I understand, and it fits with the building the future, aligning club vision with talent evolution, I think Barça is one of the clubs that always trust to academy. We have many experiences during the history of our club that when we had big problems with money, when we had very close to be bankrupt as a club, who saved the club was always the academy. Of course, Barça will not win always, but the most important is to have one identity and to believe that the best option when you need to sign a player first is to look to the academy if there is any player ready to make this step forward. My mentor was Johan Cruyff. Johan Cruyff was a person who, when they came in 1988 as a coach, he was very focused in academy. His main task was to create a system, and I remember him that the first steps he did as a head coach of the main team was always to visit academy, and he was trying to help the coaches to get better paid, because at that moment maybe some coaches were not professional. And this is a concept that I'm sure that is very important inside the club. When I talk about the modern football, about the new market, in my presentation I try to manage, because of the audience, because here are many agents, and I think how to make the connection between a sport director and agents. And for this reason, I think when I talk about Barça, I talk because I feel this. I was 6 years there, and I believe that this is the way to grow up.
Jel ste me vi zamolili da snimimo? Evo dajte mi 5-10.
So when we talk about the building the future, aligning club vision with the talent evolution. So as a club, we must have a vision, we must have a strategy, we must to define the play philosophy of the teams, because when we think that we are creating players for the main team, we need to develop them in a structure, in a very simple messages, and very strong in some concepts, because for a young player, when he's progressing from under 14, under 15, under 16, we cannot confuse them with different instructions. So for this is very important as a sport director to have a clear and focus about what is important in order to create the profile of the players. We know when we was in Barça, for example, when we put many examples, many players who were left back in the main team, they was left winger in the academy. Many examples. Now Alejandro Valde, I remember him, he was number 11, now number 3. I remember Jordi Alba was number 11. then left back. So it means that there is a strategy, and when we talk about left back, for example, we cannot talk only about the Barça players. Now Cucurella or Grimaldo also was in the academy and was left winger, offensive, but now in the modern football, they are left back. So all these concepts are very important in order to create in each position some important things to work. When we talk about the structure of the game, for me the best option is always football 7, football 9, football 11, okay? 7, 9, 11. Of course, in many countries it's 7, 11 because of the lack of the fields, and this is true. And for this, when we play football 7, we can play 2 games in one field. If we play football 9, you cannot use this because you need all field from area to area. So I understand in many countries, football 9 is not possible. Even in Spain, it's not possible because of the lack of facilities. But for example, if you play football 7, you should play, for example, 1-3-2-1. So these 3 players in defender, the player who plays as a center back, I'm sure that in future, in professional football, he can play as a defensive midfielder. Many examples about this. I remember Gerard Piqué before he was a midfielder, then he can play as a center back. So what I mean that we must have a strategy that in each position, even it's football 7, football 9, or football 11, there are some concepts that you work always. So this is creating a profile of the football player for each position. Then the fundamentals of the game. The fundamentals of the game, my question, what means to play well? For me, to play well football is to give free space and time to my teammate. Free space and time to my teammate. And always to take the best decisions in the field. So when we talk about Barça system, about La Masia, we are all focused in order that player needs to have always different options to choose and always try to choose the best option. We keep talking about the club vision. I think, and I know, and I am sure that the communication between a sport director, maybe from academy or a sport director main team, and head coach is very important. I want to put, for example, nowadays. I am sure, and I think one of the success of Barça is the good connection between sport director Deco and head coach Hansi Flick. They speak the same language. They try to find the same profile of the players. And this makes the club bigger, stronger. For example, now, new contract with Anthony Gordon, okay? So if we need to find a similar player like Anthony Gordon, I think we can agree is Rafinha, because very aggressive in the space, very energetic, very dynamic. He can play winger. And later, this means that create a new ecosystem inside the team. And when we finish, I want to explain how this new ecosystem can affect the work of a sport director related to the agents, the FIFA agents. When we talk about proactive or reactive teams, I think now football, there is a new trend. What 10 years ago was very important, that one team is recognizable. For example, Pep Guardiola, Marcelo Bielsa, De Zerbi, coaches, that they want their team play as they want, as they train. What was good maybe 10 or 7 or 5 years ago, for me now, is already finished. Now the best teams and the most competitive teams are the chameleonic teams. So they need to control many situations during the game. It's not always related through the ball possession. Sometimes they need to play in a low block, Sometimes I need to press up. Sometimes I need to wait in front of area. Sometimes I need to have the ball possession to keep calm the game. So the new trend, what I see in football, is that the new success will be these teams that can surprise the adversary. So we can put example. I think, for example, PSG, Luis Enrique. So he controls all the good and important things in the field. They are very fast, they are very strong. Sometimes if they need to defend in area, they do. So what I mean is that the new trend is to cut all this, that like a painter, like a writer, I create my team and they play as I want, okay? But you need to have plan A, plan B, and plan C. So this is the new trend, and I think we must go in the training process to this step. It's very important when we talk especially about the level of the players in academy. We don't need to talk about the level today at that time. If we are good sport director or talent development or all these kind of roles, we must see how this player, which is his real potential as a player. So, because when we sign a player or we develop player, of course we must know the level now, but we must project in future which will be the level of this player. We must create a scenario, we must create a context where this player can develop and to reach their maximal level. And the most value of a player is when you see player and you don't know which will be his best potential. I mean, you always think he can play a bit better. He can play a bit better. He can play a bit better. So this is a good signal when player has the real potential to reach the top level in professional football. About club vision, it's to create concurrence inside the teams. When we talk about the players who reach the professional football, we need to understand that when they are in these top level clubs, every April, May, March, April, May, they have big stress because in these 3 months, me as a sport director or we decide, you out, you in, you out, you in. So this is big stress for these players. So for this, we need to understand that the player who reaches the professional football is very strong mentally, because every year he has this concurrence. Concurrence is not the adversary. Concurrence is not when Barça plays against Espanyol or Barça plays against Villarreal. Your concurrence sits beside you. This is the real concurrence. And this is mentally, all the players who reach the top level, they are very, very strong, very strong. To create the context, to design exercise and tasks during the training session, and to create ecosystem in order to help players. I don't know if you know, but Pedri was testing in Real Madrid in academy. Pedri was testing in Real Madrid academy, and they didn't take him. Now I check the transfer market, 150 million. Before the World Cup. We will see after World Cup the price. So this kind of mistakes, how this affects to the economics, to the system. For this is very important, and we must focus in academy, because always you can have this that makes the difference. To create the ecosystem in order to help the players' evolution. Leo Messi, in 2003, he played in 6 teams. 6 teams. Every 7-8 weeks, step forward. I remember Juvenil B, Juvenil A, Barça C, at that moment was Barça C, third team, Barça B, and main team. So, to create the ecosystem in order to help the player evolution, it means that sometimes player is is showing you that he needs a new challenge, and you don't need to cut this because he has his natural progress. So 2003, before debut with the main team, that was, I think, in the opening ceremony in Porto, Leo Messi, 6 teams. So we need to try to help the players to reach the potential, even if it's fast. It's important also, I want to add here, that I think we must be a little bit calm and not to push too much the young players to reach their potential. Of course, now we talk about Lamine Yamal or Pau Cubarsí. They start World Cup, but they could play the under-19 finals in, I think it's in Ireland or in Scotland, will be. So we cannot push. I think now we take something that is exceptional as a rule, and player needs their time to reach their level to play in the professional football. So football is changing. I remember many years ago, Andres Iniesta, when he was 22 or 23 years old, was not in the lineup in Frank Rijkaard. And, okay, time is changing. I remember Xavi. For Xavi was not easy also to play in the lineup. So the new trend is to put too much press, I think, to the young players. But this in Barca, I think is normal because without these players, Barca went down because of many problems. But now, Pau Cubarsí, maybe 80 million. Lamine, 200 million. Marc Bernal will be minimum 60, 70. Gavi, Fermin. So when then you have this value, is because, of course, they are ready, but because of the situation. The talent evolution, of course, there are technical, tactical, physical, and psychological players. About psychological, I want to repeat that every player, any player who reaches the professional football is very strong mentally, because I repeat, every March, April, March, there is an exam that I can stay or I cannot stay. I can stay or I cannot stay. And this is a big press, but they overcome. And for this is important, when we are a sport director in academy, I remember always I did a ranking, maybe the top 5 players in each generation. And there is a situation that usually the number 1 is not the player who has better football career. So the number 1 in rankings, when I checked about their career, is not the player who has better career. And maybe we can ask why. I think because, okay, he has extra talent, but number 2, 3, or 4, every April, March, they are in or they are out. And this doubt and to overcome this situation, they make stronger. I remember in the generation, Ivan de la Peña was number 1, but others in his generation, number 2, 3, or 4, maybe Roger, Toni Belamazan, other players took better career than him, maybe. So for me, this is important that the competitive that you have inside makes you very strong mentally and as a football player. I want to say that the most important is to take the good decisions in the field. I want to say that it's very important for me to play football, to play good football, and I think what try to detect we as a coach or a sport director is that player needs to understand the tactical meaning of the technical action. The tactical meaning of the technical action, because all players are very good technical. All they do very good pass, all they do very good running with ball, all they do very good shoot, all they do very good oriented control, or dribbling. So any technical action at that level, all they do very good. But the difference and the good players, they understand when I need to make dribbling, when I need to make one or two contact pass, when I need to make running with ball and go to adversary and to create 2 against 1. So reading the game is the most important and what the top clubs we are looking to the player. So to take always the best decision in the field. Football is a collective game, but I think there are some kind of statistics that maximum, it's 3 minutes with ball, the players. So what we focus when we see player? The moment when he has ball or the other 87 minutes? I think we must check all, but the other 87 minutes are very important. And football is a game, a very complex game, for me the most complex in a sport because it's 11 against 11. There are many interconnections inside the team and you play with foot. And with foot you don't have the precision that you have with hand, like can be other sports. All the moments without ball are very important to analyze. For example, now in the World Cup, or in you can see how Rafinha is working. Rafinha is better at moments without ball than when ball. And this is the key player in the team because this makes a difference. He runs in dips, he tries to take dips, and from 10 runs, maybe 10 not receive ball. But he keep, and with this run, maybe defense also go with him and create a space for other player to receive ball. So in football, most of the movements are not for you to receive ball, are for to create a space or context for other teammate to receive ball. When we see now, I remember Barca, Pep Guardiola, you see the wingers always open in line. And maybe they don't touch ball. And when you finish, you ask Guardiola, I don't know, Christian Tello, I remember him, no? Christian Tello played good? Yes, very good. But he didn't touch ball, yes, but he played very good. Because with his movement in line, he provoked adversary also coming with him and create a space for Xavi, Iniesta, who are the good players, who can play easier inside the field. So this is how difficult is football. To understand that is not related to ball, is how you understand every situation in the field. So, and for this, I think now Rafinha is one of the key players because even, and I remember at that time for me similar, this Rafinha with Pedro. Pedro at that moment was very similar. With Guardiola, Pedro played every game and was not the best player with ball, no, but after loose ball, he had a very good press, always try to create a space for the teammates. So we must focus not in the 3 minutes or 2 minutes that player has ball. We must focus how he acts during all game and the moments without ball. Here there are just a few examples how we work usually. For example, this, just a small examples. So this player, how receive ball? With the leg away. Pass, receive. If I receive pass with this, I go inside, I don't have a space, I don't see what is in front. So just this, a small, for me, is technical, tactical. It's not only technical, it's technical, tactical. To understand that when you, just examples, but it's very, very complex because from this exercise I have more than 400, but this is one. If receive ball with far away, with farther leg, you control the space, and you can work this in a rondo. So this is a ball possession or a possession game, but in a rondo is same. If you receive ball, boom, you must receive leg far, because then you can play there, you can play. If you receive with this, you go again to the player who pass you ball. Why? There is a big press. Another example, it's 3 against 2. So the player who receives ball must go to the adversary to create situation 2 against 1. These are just examples how must work, and when finish a player his career, not his career, his formation, he understand all this. So to be football player is not easy. When we think it's a sport for people who not think, I don't agree about this. To play football is very, very difficult, very difficult. To play good football, to play well football is very, very difficult because many situations and many contexts, and you must take good decisions. The talent evolution, the mental strengths, we already talked. The ranking federation, I already said about this, about March, April each year. I think when we talk about generation lines of succession, I think we should take 3 years. For example, if we do a good job, we should create a lineup, 11 lineup, ready for the main team from the 3 ages. For example, I don't know, 2003, 2004, 2005, we should create a team, maybe 3 players 2003, maybe 4 players 2004, but each position, and to give like our work to the main team. When I talk about one generation, I talk about 3 years in the lines of succession. I think during the progress and the formation, we must put challenges to the players. We must see how they react after a substitution. We must see how they react when they are in the bench. So all these are very important to have the level of the player. Mistake is an important and a key point in the formation of the players. Mistake is part of the game. So the most important is to learn from the mistake and not to repeat the same mistake, of course. But we need to understand that, especially in the formation players, it's very important to take mistake as a key point to improve, not as a punishment. Of course, if this mistake repeats every game, of course, maybe he has not enough quality. We must try to help him to understand about the mistake, but if not understand in top level, you must give him out and take another player. So this is a concurrence. But at the beginning, we must take mistake as a friend. Every player has his talent. When I speak about talent, we don't need to focus only the moments with ball or technically. For example, if we ask Andrés Iniesta had talent, of course. Andrés Iniesta, we all agree, had talent. Lamine Yamal has talent, okay, of course. Lamine Yamal has talent. Carles Puyol has talent, of course, he had talent. Different talent, but he was very talented in anticipation, in control the timing, in to make a leadership. So we don't need to confuse talent only the moments, technical moments. Talent can be in many aspects of a football player. For me, adaptation is a new talent. As I told you, because of the new trend of football, I think chameleonic teams are the most dangerous teams because they can suppress adversary. And player also the adaptation in a new context, ecosystem, or a scenario, I think is one of the qualities of the players. As I told before, players from the academy save the club, and they still save the club. And when I speak about this, I think it's very important when players from academy plays with the main team, because now all we are football people. If we, for example, see the squad Galacticos and a squad dream team, if we go individually, I think many positions similar level individually. Maybe Zidane, Iniesta, similar level. Maybe Xavi Alonso, maybe similar level. But the big difference was that the players from academy, they feel the club since they are childhood. And when they play, they know that they don't not only play a football game, they play for more than a football game. And at that moment, Galacticos take Zidane from one club, David Beckham from Paris Saint-Germain, or from United, sorry. So it's different. Individual, okay, individual may be very similar, but when you create this ecosystem inside inner wish that since your childhood or when you are 14, 15 years old, you are inside a club, then all duels you win. All duels you win because you know that you are not only playing a football game, that is more than a game. So for example, as I told you, now the grow up of the market value of the squad, I think, and I'm sure that this saved the club again. And when I want to say this about, you remember when we talked about Anthony Gordon, I want to put in a high level the work of the sport director of Deco. Why? Because of course Deco and Hansi Flick, they have a very good connection. But I think, and I don't know this information, but I imagine that there is a new step about to sign Anthony Gordon. I think Barca paid 80 million to Newcastle, but I think who will replace Anthony Gordon? I think maybe it's Abde. Abde is player from Betis, that Barca has 15% of the next transfer. So when I tell you how intelligent or how good is the work of a sport director, is to create this 360 scenario where you win in any movement. And Barca, with this movement, win in any situation. Because sign a player that he wants, Anthony Gordon, and substitute of Anthony Gordon, I think maybe is up there. So it's 15% of the new transfer. So you should to reduce this 80 million with this 15%. So this is a top level of management if this happens. So for this is how to emphasize and how to highlight the work of a sport director, that you can put many situations and always it's a winning situation. I also want to put in consider in a positive way his work as Deco, because before in Barca, and I know this, before signing a player, every newspaper talk about which player Barca will sign. Deco signed Anthony Gordon when people think he's traveling to London to sign Joao Pedro. So this is high level of control the situation. I think now many talking about Julian Alvarez. I think maybe he has another strategy. Maybe focus in one player, but you are working in backstage with other. And how this affects to the game, just let's think. If now Anthony Gordon in Barca, I think if they have good connection, Deco and Hansi Flick, I think maybe the next position, and I think they think already about this, the next position of Lamine Yamal will be inside. If winger, he scored 25 goals, with Anthony Gordon, Rafinha and wingers. If Lamine behind the striker or inside, maybe better performance. So I want to put in context how important it is to have this connection and to transfer to you my experience and my time here. Just this, many players that was in the system, You practice football with feet, but football is played with the brain. To play good in football is to give time and space to the teammate, to understand the tactical meaning of the technical action.
Nice.
And hvala
That's
to
why I
all,
like Serbia.
hvala for this time,
So that's why I like Serbia.
and thank you.
Oh goodness.
From your experience, what would you advise to a young player, 14, 15 years, if he is discovered from a big club, big name? Should he immediately go to that club, or should he still make the development in the smaller club in the region somewhere in the country?
My advice is, if possible, to move as fast as possible to the highest level club because of the concurrence, especially because he will have many concurrents inside the team, and this makes you stronger and to progress faster.
The next one, please.
Thank you very much, Jordi, for the presentation. Two very short questions. One, how is it that young players coming out of La Masia are ready to play on the highest level so early? So we see all over the world players coming through the system and then giving their debut with 18, 19, maybe even 20 or 21 in Italy. How is it that Barca produces players that are ready to play Champions League at 16, 17 already and perform? And the second question is, how is it that, especially in central midfield, La Masia produces so many outstanding talent in every generation with Busquets, Iniesta, Xavi, Javi, Pedri, etc.?
Thanks for your questions. I will start with the second one. I think it's not only about Barca. I think it's the Spanish football who creates very good players who plays inside, because we remember Juan Mata, we remember, of course, Rodri, we remember Silva, we remember Fabregas, who also was in La Masia. We remember many players, Cazorla, many players who played very good inside. And this was positive and negative for the national team, because I remember we never had wingers, but now this changed with Lamine Yamal. I don't know the level now with Nico Williams, because I don't know about injury and was not a very good season, honestly. But when you combine these good players in the middle, in center, inside, with the very good players outside, for adversaries it's very difficult to understand where is the danger, because this is a step forward in the Spanish football. When you have players who can play, can make difference, winger, because this creates a confusion in the adversary. So I think it's not only about Barca system, it's more about a Spanish system that many of the exercise are with ball, and we always talk about the 4 Ps in the Spanish system. It's possession, it's pass, it's the position, and it's press. So these 4 Ps are very important, and I think this creates very good players inside. About how is possible that these players, very young, could compete in the top level, I think it's also, of course, about ecosystem of the club, that always, before sign a new player, I think always look which is the player who is in under 17 or under 19, and why they are ready. I think they are ready because in Spain, especially in the region of Catalonia, the level of the competitions, even when you are under 12 or under 13, are very high. Okay? So now, of course, we talk about Barça, Espanyol, but I can tell you Badalona, I can tell you Cornellà, I can tell you Terrassa. All these are very good teams, and Barça not win 9-0 every game. Sometimes Barça is second position and Espanyol first. So what I think is this context about the youth competition, that every weekend you have an exam. If you are not performance at 100%, maybe you lose. So what I mean is the medium level is very high of the adversary. And I think this makes these players ready to manage with the press.
One more, yes?
Thank you. Funny enough, we're just having a discussion at lunch about Barcelona. And you're here now, so I would love and hate to ask why, and you've spoken so much about Anthony Gordon. So why Anthony Gordon instead of Rashford that was on loan at Barcelona? Could it be about the 3 years generation also? A lot of us gave our own insight of what we think, but it would be nice to hear from you about that. Thank you.
I think about the Rashford situation is a question between that he has a contract with United, and I think he must get back to United. I think this second part of the season he did good, but maybe not enough to keep in this good position. And I think the sign of Anthony Gordon is a question of dynamics. I see him very dynamic. I see him very versatile. I think from Barca is very okay. We talk that Lamine Yamal, but the key player when he's not in the field is Rafinha, because Rafinha is the player who makes difference about the movements. Because Lamine is very good when receive ball, but Rafinha is very good in the space, the aggressivity, and I think to sign Anthony Gordon is to find a player that if sometimes Rafinha is not in the field for some reasons, there is another player that can cover all these characteristics.
Thank you, Jordi.
Welcome.
That was a presentation of Jordi Gratacos, but we need to go on with some medicine theme.